That's right, it's the final word with me, Majestic, and Alan Pardew as we reflect on a Manchester derby that started off beautifully for Manchester United. Pards with Rashford with an absolute screamer of a goal.
Yeah, a strange setup. McTominay sort of playing as a false nine and Rashford up on the right, and you're thinking, oh, OK, where's this going to go? And they just won long clearance. Man City don't defend it well. But the setback and then a spectacular goal, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Smashed, real purpose and power into the top corner. And you're thinking, oh, OK, this could be a different afternoon. But it wasn't.
Yeah, I was performing at the nightclub he was caught in a few weeks ago last night in Belfast. Thompson's. So big shout to Mark of the Thompson's crew. They messaged me, see, it's the Thompson's effect, Rashford, goal.
Okay,
and then, of course, didn't get the ending that they wanted. 3-1.
No.
Manchester City clicked into gear, didn't they?
Yeah, and although they wasn't at their very best today, they were still more than good enough.
Right, let's head straight to the phone lines at 03717 223344 because I've got a lot of Manchester United fans that want to have their say. Let's start with Stephen. Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening.
How are you, Stephen?
Really disappointed. Well, it's beyond disappointment today. Started great, first 10 minutes brilliant. Then suddenly went 1-0 up. They went defensive and all. The second half, we had 3 or 4 great chances going forward. Then they played it back to bananas. We're not good enough, nowhere near good enough for that sort of stuff.
No. Especially against Manchester City.
He's got to go. He's got to go. The bloke is clueless. He's beyond clueless.
Pards, Stephen's saying he's clueless. We've often questioned all season about the style of play at Manchester United, what are they trying to achieve today. You even said it by looking at the way that they set themselves out today. As a former manager, when you're looking at what was their game plan going into that today?
Well, I don't really quite grasp what he was after. He's obviously going for strength in terms of playing a lot of midfield players and sort of, closing that centre of the pitch down. And at times, even in the first half, McTominay was, I don't know, he was like 25 yards from goal and Fernandes was inside that. Rashford was inside. There was no outball at all.
No.
So, it was just kept coming and Man City weren't really flowing at that point. But, when they got the goal, you're thinking, oh, maybe this is some cunning master plan. But it wasn't really, and then as the substitutions come into the game, Man United just got weaker and weaker and weaker, and City just, won with ease, really. It's a worry because the spine of the team looks weak to me.
Yeah. Let's head over to Michael, who's a Man United fan. He joins us on the final word. Good evening, Michael.
Hiya.
Obviously, no, I'll say you're feeling after that poor performance. But
Well, if I'm spending it, if this guy is spending £410 million in 2 transfer windows, and this is performance we're getting out of these players and the coaching staff, they all got to go. He's absolutely clueless, the manager. And you've got Steve McClaren there, who's been under one of the greatest managers of all time, to Alex Ferguson. He should know better.
Well, we clocked McClaren, didn't we?
But standards don't seem to matter to anybody.
Sit where do you go from here, though? Like, if you're looking in the marketplace right now, who would you go for?
Well, you got to sit down. Apparently, that's the one that we all want, or apparently that's the one Jim Ratcliffe gets. I don't know if they get him. There's been talks, apparently Dean Ashwood and Potter talking over the weekend. I just don't know what the plan is. I don't know if there is a plan.
Do you feel, for once in your sort of tenure as a Manchester United fan, completely lost?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm lost in the transfer market. I mean, who do you buy? I mean, there's half the players I would get rid of. Rashford, again, he was the culprit for the first Man City goal because when he went down, it wasn't a foul, but he was playing to the referee going, I was fouled, and they scored.
Yeah.
So that didn't cover me in glory because it did look like he went down late. When you look at the structure that Jim's put in place, actually, Dan Ashworth, it doesn't work for you at the moment. There is no contract or deal done for him.
It's apparently what I've read and what's been told in Sky Sports News, £20 million to get Dean Ashworth.
And
now,
a lot of money.
Could he work with Ten Hag? I don't know. I mean, who could Dean Ashwood work in the manager? If you're the manager of Man United, what would you do right now?
Well, I know one thing, that Dan Ashworth, just go to Dan, that he knows the game, and he's definitely been around the game long enough to work out quickly. But whether you can get him in the door is another thing. So the first process, I would thought, for Jim, he's got Brailsford in there. You know, obviously the cycling guru has come into the world of football now. He's like heading up some sort of super team of which he wants Ashworth to lead, I guess. But, you know, until that gets in place, I think the manager's going to stay. I don't see him going anywhere until such point that Ashworth's appointed, Brailsford gets the team that he wants, and then in the summer, I think they're going to have a serious look because the results just don't reflect well.
I agree. And Michael, of course, talkSPORT is the only place for your news. If you want to be up to date and know exactly what's going on, it's all about talkSPORT. Let's head back over to the phone lines. Let's get a Manchester City perspective. Mike was at the game today. He must be buzzing. Mike, 19 games on the bounce, no loss. Manchester City, they're right in the mix to win everything again.
We are, yeah. And I think has Rodri broken a record now for the most games unbeaten?
Oh, it's a good point. We'll have to get our stat man on that. Thank you, Mike.
I just see him run out the room, our stat man.
I think he's gone 59 games. But what I like to say, I mean, you know, like listening to the United fan then, I mean, did you guys watch the match?
Yeah,
Yes,
of course.
Okay. So, did you not think that one team there was trying to play football?
Absolutely.
And the other one was just trying to completely be destructive.
Nullify the game completely. Mike, you know, yeah. I'm a Tottenham fan, and I was at the Spurs game yesterday. Manchester United tried what Crystal Palace did yesterday, and Crystal Palace did it a lot more effectively, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, but for a derby match, I mean, like, you know when people say to us, pre-2008, and they know nothing, because obviously, you know, we've existed for a long time. But what I do before each match, I watch the goals against the team that we're playing, where we've won the match, and I do it for home or away. So last night, it took me ages to watch them all. It took me till about 3 o'clock this morning, because of all the times where we won, where they were much richer. And even the commentators on the TV in the 90s, they're boasting about how rich United are. But what used to happen was our players used to absolutely die for the badge, even though we weren't as good. And we quite often beat them. You know, it was more than you'd think. And what I watched today is, if you watch, say, Phil Foden's attitude compared to, say, Marcus Rashford's attitude, so there's 2 Manchester lads, 2 England players. They sort of, how old is Rashford? I'm not sure, but I know Phil's about 23 now. But if you watch the way Phil Foden played today, especially in that second half, when they'd gone in at half-time frustrated because of United's goalie time wasting, the referee not punishing the goalie, them only doing 3 minutes extra time. Pep's obviously got them all revved up again. He's switched a couple of things. He's put Thingy on, Alvarez on. But if you look at the spirit and the passion in someone like Foden and look at the same thing in Rashford, it's completely different. And it's the total attitude, I think.
Mike, I think that comes from a manager, doesn't it? It comes from an ethos at a club. It comes from what they're creating. You know, and again, just to bring it back to what I saw yesterday with Spurs and the post-match conference and Maddison talking about being at Spurs and how much he loves it and the way they celebrate the goals together. I just think that Ange Postecoglou, in the time that he's been at Spurs, has created more of a sort of an army of players together than Ten Hag has. He's completely separated that dressing room, hasn't he, with everything that's gone on with the Sanchos and Ronaldos.
You'd want to go on a night out with Ange, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think...
know, you'd all be like, you'd want to be on his side, wouldn't you? It's like, you know, we're a team, and I'll stick up for you to the press, and come on, and at least Spurs try and play a bit, you know, at least they try and do some stylish stuff. And I just thought today, that today's game totally showed you the difference between the sort of spoilt, bratty 1990s Man United who think they're entitled, and City who have now won a lot of things, but they're still hungry. You know, I mean, I go in the nice bit in the hospitality, luckily, so I get to see a lot of the higher ups at City.
Yeah,
they are absolutely as hungry and determined as ever to win as much as they can. And the thing about the charges, they're so absolutely fired up about it because their main point is these FFP rules, which are now causing all sorts of trouble for other clubs like Nottingham Forest and Everton, and nobody can operate properly. Crystal Palace's owner, what was in the news this week, wasn't he, saying these rules are just made purely to protect the TV revenue and those big clubs of Liverpool, Arsenal, United, Spurs. Spurs have sort of gone on because I think Spurs are the best run club in the country, by the way. I think as a business, they're just phenomenal. You know, on the pitch, they haven't done as well, have they?
You're sort of going off plan here a little bit. I would just come back on a couple of things. Firstly, I thought, in terms of the quality of the two teams, there's a gulf between them. There's a gulf between the setup of each team. And, what was surprising, and what's surprising to me, and it would be surprising to me if I was a Man United fan, and I'm going up there next week, was you're in a derby and you don't go up against them. Yeah. There wasn't enough of that, was there? That's a setup that Crystal Palace, if I was running Crystal Palace, we would go there with that game plan. We would be expecting maybe to get something on the break, maybe get something out of the game. And that was a little bit our Man United setup. Man United, we're talking about, this giant club, maybe the biggest in the world, you could argue. And this is where I think the bigger problem lies. The quality of the team, the setup of the team against what is a very, very, as our caller Mike quite rightly says, Man City at the moment, a very well-oiled winning machine. And it's a marked difference between the two clubs.
Absolutely. Manchester United and Manchester City fans, keep those calls coming in. We especially want to hear from you, Manchester United fans. If you left the game early, how much did that hurt? Or was you expecting that? You have a Magic 8 ball. What do you want to happen in the future? What can you see? What do you envision